Hello and welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Dani Golden's podcast featuring the lovely and talented licensed marriage family therapist, Miss Heidi Bacani.
Hi, Dani. Here we are. Season 2.
Here we are. Very exciting. Very excited and exciting. This podcast is called Let Me Be Single. And for those of you who might not have caught any of the episodes that we did in season 1, check it out. They're on danigolden.com or my YouTube channel. We explored wonderful topics such as how to find a therapist, how to find the right therapist, highly sensitive people, anger, boundaries, letting go, online dating, competition, why haters gotta hate, and more. So check it out.
All that hard work.
All that hard work in 2024. So we hope you enjoy it. And before we get into this podcast, Heidi, go ahead and do the disclaimer.
Quick disclaimer for the viewers and the listeners. Please keep in mind that our videos and our podcasts are for entertainment purposes only, not meant as a replacement for talk therapy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Love it. So today we're going to talk about being single and all the stigmas and stereotypes that come with that. So the reason this podcast is called Let Me Be Single is because there is definitely a single stigma in society, despite the fact that more people are deciding to stay single than get married. There still seems to be this common thread of people, well-intentioned, but walking up to single people. And I would say this is from the female perspective because I cannot speak to the male perspective, but I definitely think that it negatively impacts women more. But it's not uncommon for people to approach a single woman and say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're so amazing. You're so independent. Why are you still single?" Right. Whereas no one would think to walk up to a married woman and say those same things and say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're so amazing. You're so smart. You're so independent. Why would you be married? Or why are you married?"
Unacceptable. One is okay and one's unacceptable. Why?
Right.
Why?
Exactly. Why? So we want to ask that question. We want to talk about the thing that nobody talks about, the things that nobody talks about, or they talk about it privately, but nobody wants to bring it to the surface. We're bringing it to the surface. So why is it acceptable for people to ask single people why they're still single when single people don't ask married people why they're married? So you could see a friend in an unhealthy relationship and you wouldn't walk up to them and feel emboldened to say, "Why are you still married? You don't seem happy." There's also the very common comment, which is usually said with a condescending tone, "You're single, you don't understand." Whereas I wouldn't say to all my married friends, "You're married. You don't understand."
Right.
The societal expectations for men and women are definitely different. As men get older and they're single, they're seen as, "Oh, well, he's just a bachelor."
Right. Very positive.
Very positive, excuse, like almost like a toddler, like no expectations, like that's what's expected. But a woman is a spinster or an old maid.
Derogatory.
It's very derogatory. It's certainly not positive. And I don't have the answer why these stigmas and norms have been kept in place when I feel like we've developed and evolved so much.
Right.
There's very common single shaming that still exists. And I'm sure you guys are going to recognize these when I read them off, but these are not uncommon for single people to hear. "I just think you would be so much happier in a relationship. I don't want you to grow old alone. I'm worried about you."
Not
again,
okay to say.
No, I would not walk up to my married friends and say any of those. I wouldn't ask a married person in an unhealthy relationship, "I'm worried about you. Why are you still married?" So, yeah, I don't get it. I think in my 20s, I have this note on our outline, I had this notion that, and it was probably part of just, Heidi and I talked about this offline, but, my late 20s, I really was trying to figure out who I was and wasn't looking for a husband or a man. But I think there was some seed that had been planted by society where I thought, ooh, maybe a man will come and save me. And I won't have to endure the awkward and uncomfortableness of being single. And if I'm sick and if I'm in a relationship, people will stop asking me these uncomfortable questions and I can be left alone.
Right.
And as I've experienced being single as an older woman, I can safely say that those theories and notions and lies that I told myself no longer are relevant. I don't feel like I need to be in a relationship to feel supported. I now can lean on close friends and family. I don't feel awkward standing on my own 2 feet. I actually really enjoy my own company and love hanging out with myself, and have chosen that over the opportunities to go out many a times, and make no apologies for that. I used to think that there was a lot of luxury in being able to lean on a partner. And I've talked to people that are in relationships and they're like, well, it's not always that. Like, you can feel alone in a relationship. And I don't discount that or doubt that. But I do think that, again, the narrative that I told myself when I was younger was like, ooh, this would be so much easier if I had a partner. So it's very nice to have shed that belief and to no longer feed it as if it's true. The subtle looks and stares that you get being single, if you're going to an event where there's a lot of couples or like a dinner party. We saw this a lot in Bridget Jones and Diary. But let's not pretend that women are always very supportive of other women, because there are definitely times where women are very awful to other women. And this can come out with married women being condescending and mean to single women and thinking that they're better than them because they found a partner, or they don't trust them to be alone in a room with her husband. So she's a husband stealer. She's going to take up too much room, take up too much space. I don't want to invite her because she's going to feel uncomfortable with all these couples. I have gone to several dinners recently where it's all couples and it's just me as a single person, and I don't feel uncomfortable at all. So I would throw that question back onto the person who's planning it and saying, who feels uncomfortable? Because it's not me.
Right.
It's not me.
That's not.
I don't need someone sitting next to me to enjoy a nice dinner. I mean, I have people sitting next to me. If they happen to be couples and I enjoy their company, wonderful. We all get to enjoy each other together. Why I have to have a +1 to feel accepted into your circle isn't a question for me. It's a question for you.
Absolutely.
Right. So, there's, in the last digital short, that I released, Corporate 2.1 mini episode. Check it out if you haven't, again, on danigolden.com or YouTube. Played into this whole topic, where I had the other characters in the office bring this topic up to Dani's character. You're not married, you can stay and work longer in the workplace. You're not married, what's wrong with you? Single people are more apt to be taken advantage of because they're seen as having more free time. I've definitely experienced this in my late 20s and early 30s in corporate America. There's this single stigma where it's, again, like it's like Mad Libs, but like all the adjectives that are filled in for single people are negative. None of them are positive. And I just think that's such a warped perception. And as a single person, the reason the title of this podcast is called Let Me Be Single is because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing it from my girlfriends who are single, who talk about all these awful things that people say to them. I'm single. I'm single. I'm so sick of, I am single. I am sick of the stigmas. I am sick
the
of
double standards
about this because they're afraid, or they think, oh, like, let's not, talk about the elephant in the room. No, I'm freaking talking about the elephant in the room, and I'm bringing it forward, and we're going to
Calling
study
it
it.
out.
And we're going to call it out, and we're going to ask the
Mhm.
questions that need to be asked and put it in your face,
Yeah.
and leave it for all those people that it makes to feel uncomfortable. That's a you issue.
Right.
That's not a me
Not
issue.
our work.
That's a you
Not
issue.
our work.
Right. Yeah. Get to work.
Mhm.
So Heidi, how can we advise our viewers and listeners to cope with the shaming, and what are some go-to responses for these types of odd questions, like were some like single people are some extinct animal at the zoo that needs to be studied?
Thank you for the question. I want to say, just have some back and forth with you about some of the things that you said, because
Absolutely.
they really, when we were talking about doing this podcast, and I was reflecting on my singlehood, it definitely, our conversation triggered a lot of old experiences for me around being single, and the stigmas and the stereotypes, and um, how I was made to feel small because I was single. And I think it's really a good thing that we're talking about this today, to help the viewers, to help us process like what all this means to us as well. And yeah, I love this topic so much because it helps untangle some of the social norms and the I'm trying not to curse, like the crosses, in our society that really need to be um, changed. So you asked a good question early about why these stigmas exist. And I laugh when I was doing the research on this. I mean, I laugh at how many centuries old this stigma is. These messages became so prevalent in our society. I mean, we're talking about the mid 1300s. That's pre the Mayflower and all of our
As Key and Peele would
pilgrims.
say, girl, girl,
Right?
girl. I can't.
Please, I know. So it's frustrating, it's infuriating how
It
old these
is.
stigmas are, and how they're still so prevalent in our society. They don't apply, they're myths, they're lies, they're untruths. But the narratives are so freaking strong in our core belief about who we are as women, I think. So we're here to demystify and um, tell the truth, and not promote the lie. Is the goal today, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is really throwing it back on the people who are keeping this lie alive. Like, why? I don't need to understand it. I don't even care. But you're not right.
Yeah.
You can think whatever you want. Please go ahead and think that I'm sitting at home lonely
Right.
and
With my
my life
cats.
is less fulfilled because I don't have a man. You think that,
Uh-huh.
please.
Yeah.
But you're just wasting your time and energy, because that's your truth. It's certainly not mine.
Right.
So, it's really funny to me. And then I'll have people actually, I've had a couple guy friends like pull me aside and be like, you have a great life.
Uh-huh.
I kind of want your life. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And some of those people have been single and some of those people have been married. And I appreciate that. But it's like, they're kind of like, I get it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Good for them for seeing the value in it.
yeah. And I think, I do. I give them a lot of credit for seeing that, and thinking differently and being like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow, like she doesn't seem miserable. She doesn't seem
Yeah.
lonely. She doesn't seem
Right.
like
She
void
seems
of a
yeah.
fulfilled life, you
Mhm.
know? And I think I want other women to know that that exists, to know that they can shut off that other echo chamber that is just ridiculous and, like you said, like old schools
Uh-huh.
of thought. And look, nothing against being married. You want to be married, you found your person. Like I have the luxury of being surrounded by a lot of very healthy and happy couples, and
Mm-hmm.
I love hanging out with them and going out to dinner with them. And I just think it's just they're just wonderful human beings. I love them as couples. I love them as individuals. And I think, to me, when I look at those relationships, I think, how fortunate are they that they found one another and they won the
Mm-hmm.
lottery in life by having this amazing partner next to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then I think, how unfortunate is it that I have friends that are single and wanted to be in married in relationships where they didn't have the luxury of meeting that person. They had the luxury, or not so much a luxury. They had negative experiences, or experiences that made them better humans, but didn't put them in a place where they're now coupled off and where they want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so why would we ever blame
Right.
those
Or see
people
that
and
as
say it's your fault that you didn't meet the right
mm-hmm.
person? And that's what really upsets me and irritates me, because you would never say that to someone else about anything. You would
Right.
never, you
Their
didn't try
married life.
hard enough, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And, when a lot of interpersonal relationships and dating isn't trying it, I mean, yes, you need to work on yourself and you need to try and put yourself out there and things, but like, you can't just, and I'm sure
Blame
people
the
will
person.
disagree with this, but like,
Yeah.
be like, Ole, where is he?
Right.
Like, he
Right.
fell through my, he fell through my ceiling and now he's sitting on the couch and we're enjoying TV together. No, I mean, that's just not, it's not, there's so many factors involved. Are you going to grow together? How are you going to, is there
Mm-hmm.
a connection? And so to put that on a woman because she's single and be like, ooh, there's something wrong with her because she's not coupled off, it's just absurd.
It is. It is. It's not true. It's not realistic to blame someone for their singleness.
Yeah. Or I was having this conversation with a girlfriend. Like, I felt like, especially in my 20s, that my coupled off friends, when they were in relationships, would often try to, they were condescending, some of them. And these are not people I'm friends with anymore. Again, like, I'm surrounded by very healthy individuals, but in my past life, I was not so lucky and was surrounded by people that, were condescending and
Mm-hmm.
did think that they were better than me because they were married or in a relationship, and they, in my eyes, got lucky,
Right.
or
Right.
that was their life path. Like, what if I came to this planet and I was like, I will see you, my soulmate, whomever you are, in however long it takes to
Right.
live out my experience on Earth. And that's just what I decided. Just because you don't get it doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. It just means you don't get it.
Right.
That's all it means.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And they
so
don't
yeah,
know you.
yeah, you don't know me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea who I am or what my life is about. So let's not pretend.
Exactly. Okay, so I
Um,
wanted to comment on that these
yeah,
stigmas have been around for way too long and are unnecessary, and women do not need men to survive in the world anymore.
no,
Just for your information, peoples.
no. Yeah,
My
well
people,
said.
wake
Well
up.
said. What? What'd
I
you
said,
say?
my people, wake up.
I love it. The
Okay.
army of badass women. Whoa.
All right. So, and then you moved on to single shaming, which I wanted to add to as well. Um, Single shaming is, again, a lie, a myth, an untruth, because there's so many benefits to being single. I don't know if people just have amnesia about the good stuff, but the partnered people need to remember how good it was when they could control their finances. They could have more time for self-care, how they could feel more satisfied in their career because they had more time to really do the things they love doing.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah, I think the single shaming is a big contributor to people not feeling fulfilled and satisfied, and it's good to question, you know, why people see being single as something that's not equivalent or like equivalently satisfying as being partnered or coupled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you brought up your vignettes, which I think really deserve more airtime because they're so good, girl. So good.
Thank you.
I watched it a few times, not just to like help me compile a little bit for our podcast, but just because I enjoyed it so much.
Oh, good.
The acting was so good and so natural. Like it just, and I could relate to every
Oh, good.
the character that is new to the team, like
Tammy.
all her
She's
corporate
great.
isms were so good, and just the awkwardness was so well portrayed. I think I related to every awkward moment that she had when I worked in a corporate setting and tried to make small talk. Was just genius. Dani, she was really good. You were
Yeah,
real awesome
she's
too, but she
great.
was really good. Everyone was really good.
Yeah.
The the scene where the brunette actress is listing 100 tasks for you to be responsible
Raquel.
for because you're single. And she says, you don't have anyone to go home to, implying that you can stay home at work because, you know, I was just, that was a great
Oh
scene.
yeah, those are real comments that were said to
Yeah,
me.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I think I've heard all these too before. That's why I
I know.
relate.
And the fact that no one's ever talked about that and that's been okay is just so not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The scene where the male supervisor, Spencer,
Spencer.
gives excuses for why he can't stay late and you can as a single person. Born
Yep.
to work. He says you're born to work. I was dying
I
when he
know.
said that.
Like a horse has been bred to race.
That was some stuff. You don't have a husband, you don't have a life. So basically you don't have a life is what it was
Oh yeah.
implying.
Hmm.
Yeah. You have plenty of time because you don't have kids or a husband. And he
Yep.
was talking about how like he has kids that he has that he doesn't even know, and he has kids that he owns. And that was hilarious. That was a really fun scene.
Yeah, he's great. Everyone's really, really wonderful to work with.
Really
That's
talented. The
yeah.
humor at the single shaming is awesome. I think that really helps people. On to the topic of coping, I think that helps us cope is the humor.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah, knowing you're not alone, that those comments that are said to you when you're doing a double take or you're like, did I just hear that correctly? You're not, unfortunately, you're not alone in in experiencing those comments or those feelings. Yeah.
thank you for validating younger Heidi who felt all those things
Oh,
with
you are
single.
most welcome. I think I'm validating younger Dani too. I think she's still like, did that really happen? And I'm like, yes, it
Hey.
happened. It happened.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
safe now.
Yeah. I'm safe. It happens. Now let's turn it into humor
Right.
because it's great content.
Yeah. Thank you, corporate
Great
America.
material. Thank you for the great material. I know every time someone does something weird, I'm like, thank you for the material. This is amazing. So,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. On the topic of coping, so go-to responses when getting single shamed. I think we were talking about earlier. So suggestions for how to cope. Back to that for just one second.
Yeah.
Practicing assertiveness skills, meaning when responding to a negative comment regarding being single, practice being direct about your feelings about the comment. Like you're allowed, you have permission. I'm giving you permission to say out loud, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And that's it. That's all you have to say. That will stop someone in their tracks.
Okay.
So
Good
I
feedback
think,
for the listeners and viewers. Yeah.
and the more that we practice that, behavior, the more it becomes automatic, the more initially it's going to be very wooden, but
Mm-hmm.
it will become more automatic. It will become more comfortable to say it out loud, to call it out.
Yeah.
So it's practice, 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 practice.
Yeah.
And also keep it short. When someone says something negative about being single or tries to shame you, keep it short and sweet. Meaning you don't need to explain, you don't need to justify why you're single if someone makes a comment about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know that you're happy and content and satisfied to be single, period. Like, you don't need to say more. I don't know. Say it in your own words, everyone. But just like, that's what I would say. Like, I'm good. I'm good with my being able to go home to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But keep it short and sweet. No need to explain or justify. Third suggestion, third suggestion would be to journal or talk about what comes up during the day with friends, because in that process of processing, I think we can get to these shameful feelings, feelings of being small. We can work through it and then know how to respond to that situation again when it comes up more efficiently, more effectively. So let's talk about it. Let's laugh about it together so that we
Yeah.
can figure out how to deal with it in the future, because it's going to come up a lot over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because we live in the society we live in that really looks down on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so those are some suggestions. Those are some
Yeah. I
go-tos.
think the most helpful one for me, or the
Mm-hmm.
old me, and the one I would give close friends is other people don't need to understand. If you're happy and you're good with your life, what does it matter?
Right.
Right. So, um, if somebody's concerned about, whether I'm going to be happy down the road being single, that's a me issue to worry about. That's not,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to stay up late worrying about me. You should focus on yourself.
Right.
And I mean that in the most positive way. Just like I'm not going to stay up late worrying about you. And I just think sometimes, actually, let me rephrase that. The old unhealed me
Mm-hmm.
with used to think that if people understood me,
Mm-hmm.
they would let it go,
Ah, okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If they understand, they'll get it.
Right.
They'll drop it. It'll be
Right.
fine. Like everything will work
Mm-hmm.
out as long as they understand. And I've come to the place that there are just some things that people will never understand, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. It doesn't mean that if you're surrounded with the right people, the right healthy environment, of supportive, loving, unconditional loving people,
Mm-hmm.
they don't need to get it. Just like I don't need to get everything that they're going through to be supportive and there for them and a
Right.
good friend or family member. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to remind the audience of that.
They don't need to get it.
Yeah, other people don't
Mm-hmm.
need to get it. As long as you're good, that's all that matters.
Yes, I totally agree. I second that. I support that.
Yeah,
Support that
thank you.
recommendation of
Thank
not caring what other people think, not trying to explain.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to me it's just, look, it's like, in prepping for this podcast, I was thinking about this, and we had talked, prepping offline about this. And there are some things that I came into this life and I'm like, ooh, yes, I want to do this. Like I always knew I wanted to swim. I first walked in a baby pool. This is what I want to do with my time. This is how I enjoy it. Like I knew I wanted to surf. I knew when I wanted a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I never woke up and was like, I want children and I need to get married.
Mm-hmm.
If I met a partner that was supportive and amazing and
Yeah.
we sailed off into the sunset together and, I would be very happy with that too. But that's just not where I'm at in my life. I'm very happy with, what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just think that, it's just been a very interesting journey in going through life and the things
Mhm.
that come in and how
Mhm.
to, process them, and then also be aware of like how I feel,
Mhm. Mhm.
about everything, because there's what the world feels and then there's how I feel. So,
Right. Yeah.
so that's just been, something, look, if I met a man and I was like, yes, like let's sail off into the sunset and be together, but he would, I would probably miss being single a little bit. I just, I'm not saying I wouldn't be in a relationship, but I'm just saying I'm in a place right now where I really, really love
Yeah.
being single. I love my independence. I love my freedom. I love my own company. I
Yeah.
love that I can do what I want when I want to do
Right.
it. There are just, I have people to travel with. I am fine traveling by myself, or good traveling by myself. Like I just,
Yeah.
so to me, if you're not adding to the equation, what are you doing?
Right.
That's how I feel about a relationship. If you're not adding,
Right. What's the
why are
point?
you here?
Mhm.
Why are you here?
Mhm.
So
I'm
anyway, so
hearing very clearly that life is good, Danny. Life is
yeah,
good.
life is good. Life is
And
good. I'm feeling very fortunate.
unpartnered.
Yeah. So that kind of touches on the next notes I wrote in the outline, like learning to love being single. I've definitely gotten there.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to love myself, unconditional acceptance. That's been a very interesting and fun journey. Not always fun, sometimes painful. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta, to you gotta walk through the storm to get to
Right.
the beautiful other side. Facing my fears. Am I afraid to be single? What are people, what are people going to think if I'm single? For me, that wasn't a specific thing, what people are going to think. I feel like I have a very supportive family and group of friends that just don't challenge me.
Right.
And there are friends that I have that are like, oh, if we meet someone, we'd love to set you up. I love that. I think that's great. I think that's so loving. I think that's so supportive. I can't wait to meet the people they're going to set me up with. Um, but it's not something I'm like, when are you going to set me up? When is
Right.
that happening?
Right.
It's just, if it happens, that's great. And I think it's wonderful to be in that place. Um,
Yeah. Very
yeah.
strong place to be in, to not feel like you're going to die or disintegrate from not meeting your person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
on the journey to loving myself, I really had to stare at that and be like, "Okay, Dani, like what happens if you never meet your person? Like are you going to be okay? What does that look like?" And I think in that process of exploring that, it really helped me come to terms with like, wow, like why am I looking for a relationship? Is that
Mhm.
really something that I want, or is that something that is an echo from society,
Mhm. Mhm.
we talked about online dating last year. That just, I mean, I would rather have an unwanted enema than online date. I'm just going to be straight up honest about that. That's how painful online dating was for me. It was just not an
Mhm.
enjoyable experience. So, yeah.
Not for everyone.
Um,
Definitely not for everyone.
yeah, not for everyone. I think shedding the people pleasing and learning not to care what society and others think
Mhm.
has definitely been an extremely liberating experience, because, once you figure out who you are and what you want, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Skill, life skill,
Life skill,
major
exactly.
life skill.
So, yeah, exactly. So, before we get into the PSA and books, anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, Danny. I mean,
Okay.
you did such a nice job, I think, outlining our podcast on the
Well,
fem.
we did a good job. So,
Thank you.
both of us.
Well, so no, I think we can move on.
Okay.
All right, so quickly, let's see. A couple of books I discovered in exploring this topic. There is a social scientist named Dr. Bella DiPaolo. She calls herself an expert on single life, which I believe she is.
Ooh.
Um, she has done a TED talk on what no one ever told you about people who are single.
Oh.
Um, and the name of, she's written several books, but the names of some of her books are Single at Heart, Singled Out, and How We Live Now.
I love it.
I know their titles
That's
are.
awesome.
Um, and then I found another book by Dr. Jenny Tates. She's a clinical psychologist who wrote How to Be Single and Happy. I mean,
Love it.
straightforward. And
Yeah.
she teaches readers about how to date, um, still, let's see, how to date effectively
Mm-hmm.
and how to cultivate the mindset of living a happy life, happy, satisfied life, whether single or coupled.
Mm-hmm.
So her book sounds really, really good too.
That's wonderful.
And okay, so that was books. And then PSA, public service announcements, are always going to be about low cost therapy because I think that we don't have enough of that available to my people. My people need the services, and we
We
don't
all
have
need
a
to,
society
yeah.
that really promotes it to be affordable. So these are all therapy offices in the San Diego area.
Oh,
An homage to you, Dani.
love it.
And this was provided by Heather Gibson, who's an LMFT. Um, I'm trying to find the name of her Positive Change Counseling Center, I believe is where she works, and she's a practicing marriage and family therapist there. But she did put together this really lovely list, and I'm just going to name off some of the places that she recommended.
Okay.
Alliant Couple and Family Clinic offers low-cost therapy to individuals, couples, and families, and they're located in the Scripps Ranch area. Their phone number is 858-547-9803, 858-547-9803. And CAPS Clinic, Center for Applied Psychology and Services at Alliant University. So a lot of these places I'm going to mention are going to be clinics that are run by multiple doctors, maybe even a psychiatrist, other licensed professionals that supervise interns so you're getting your money's worth because you're not just getting the person who's very interested in this field, but you're also getting a full list of people that are also resources that are making themselves available to you through the intern. Anyway, so CAPS Clinic is also in San Diego, 619-687-1939, 619-687-1939. And let's see, University of San Diego has a telehealth training clinic for students in training supervised again by licensed therapists and doctors. Phone number 619-260-7670, 619-260-7670. And that's it. That's my list.
I love that. And I'm going to put that at the bottom of this podcast. So all you viewers and listeners can have access to that information, that wonderful information. So thank you so much, Heidi.
Yeah.
And as everyone, as you might know, if you've listened to season 1, I usually ask Heidi a question.
Okay.
So there's no question this time. We're just
This
going to
episode.
interactively sign out. There's no question for this episode. There's only, it's actually a question, but it's more rhetorical and tongue in cheek.
Right.
So I just want to end this podcast on a positive note. Since there was no question for Heidi during this podcast, I would like to just say, Heidi, why are you married? You're so amazing, independent, and wonderful. Why are you married?
And I just want to say, Dani, why are you still single? Why?
Exactly. I don't know. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoy this podcast.
Take care. Stay well. Thank you.